It looks a little strange,
What
but
looks strange?
you're
My hair?
you're yeah. I don't think you're gonna be happy with it for the finale of this series here.
Oh my god, it is strange. In every single character, I see a part of myself.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I can't like isolate it as if like to say, well, hey, look, I really liked Delenn in the beginning and now I don't anymore. And now like Commander Sinclair is who I like, and like, and they can, and that is not how I really like feel about it as I sit back and look at this. It's like every single thought and every single emotion that every single one of these characters have expressed, I have felt. And I
Mm-hmm.
think about how like as you're talking to me, I'm thinking about how I experienced those things in my life. What happened? What brought about those experiences? And how did I work towards like resolving it or navigating it? And like
Mm-hmm.
it really is not that tunnel visioned and singular. And as I even like talk to my clients about these things, right, to help them understand these unknowns that they feel that they have when it comes to other people and including themselves, it's like every single one of those bits and pieces, it's like I get it. And like of course I could say, well, I understand, right? But everyone says I understand. And in that way, like you telling me that I am an instinctual therapist, or I'm very instinctual when it comes to like people's emotions. It's more and more that's becoming evident to me. I even had a conversation with, with someone online, and they were telling me about like how I made them feel. And it's such an interesting thing, and I thought about like where it all even started. Where did it all start where I made someone feel seen? Because it was never like that. When we first met, I was like incredibly selfish and I only had one emotion, which was anger.
Yep,
And then the
pretty much.
passion that like backed up that anger, but that was about it. I felt very little
Mm-hmm.
joy. I understood very little about happiness. I understood very little about like what it even meant to care about anything, especially anyone. And everything was driven by like survival instead of like, you know, self-sacrifice or bettering someone else's life or helping to like relieve someone else's burden. That wasn't like on the forefront of my mind. In the episode where they talk about the quality of mercy, that episode,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the show, Lanier and Londo have this conversation. They're being scolded by Commander Sinclair. And Sinclair's just basically asking for some sort of explanation from Londo. And Londo's like, I got I got nothing. I just the room is spinning. The room is spinning. Of course, I love like, I love his response. Sinclair's like, well, this is all gravitational force, so of course it's going to be spinning. We're not spinning. And he's like, well, that explains things. I love that. But then Lanier ends up like coming into the picture and he says he takes responsibility for it. He actually says it was him that was the one who asked Londo to have, to give him this firsthand experience.
Mm-hmm.
After the commander leaves, Londo asks him, like, why did you do that? Why did you basically, take the fall for like something that was clearly like his idea? And Lanier says, it's in Minbari culture, it's an honor to help another save face.
Mm.
He goes on to say that, you know, Delenn will know better, but will not inquire out of respect.
Yes, yes.
That was something I had thought long and hard for many, many, many years. Because in my earlier years, all my anger was driven by injustice. This sense, this feeling of injustice. But really, what's behind all that? I mean, of course, like anger is like, the secondary emotion to a primary emotion, which is mostly hurt, right? Feeling hurt.
Mm. Hurt and fear, yeah.
Hmm?
Hurt and
Yeah,
fear.
hurt and fear, right? Hurt and fear. So it's a very interesting thing for me because I had examined that for so long and it always made me so furious when someone didn't know the truth and everything was just assumed about me. Or like no one really knew what was going on and no one bothered to care to understand me. And this is when I'm like in, my childhood, my teen years, my early 20s. And it made me so angry to the point where, I was just like Jakar. I could not let go of the little things. That was nearly impossible to let go of the little things. And it didn't matter, whose face I didn't save or you know, who I needed to point out as the enemy. It did not matter. None of that mattered. It was what was more important was like the truth, right? The truth of what I thought
Mm-hmm.
was like this injustice, this misunderstanding, this fury of like people not even like caring themselves. When in fact I didn't even care about other people, which is the irony of the whole thing. I didn't even know how to care about other people because I was so like stuck in like how other people couldn't understand anything that felt relevant to me
Mm-hmm.
or even to the situation. Growing up being made fun of like that I smelled like my family store, which was a fish market. Growing up being made fun of for being strange and weird because I was always that like isolated, lonely kid in the corner of the classroom, sitting in the back and barely even being able to see the blackboard because I didn't even know I needed glasses until like I was in fifth grade. And that's like so representative of every anime you watch out there, right? Of
Yeah.
like that lone child who was picked on and never like understood and never given a chance. So yeah, I was driven with anger just like Jakar. So I never even knew what it meant to like save face because what was the point? What would that have been for if like no one would have even known that I would have done that? If no one even couldn't understand the basic parts of me, my basic emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So then yes, the anger that Jakar felt was very similar to the anger that I felt that it doesn't even matter that like even though it was like a pact, an agreement signed under duress, that even though
Mm-hmm.
now it's working well, doesn't matter. Even though in my present life, at the time in my younger years, even when things were where, I had at least one person understand me, it felt like a miracle, but then it still wasn't enough to tame that anger.
Mm-hmm.
It was like as if I needed the whole world to understand what I went through and the whole world to apologize for the way they treated me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that was just like Jakar. Even though there was peace, even though their world is thriving, even though their people were rising, even though he had 10,000 soldiers parked at stationed at Quadrant 37, even though the Centauri had been tamed, and they will not rise, because he even said it, that the Centauri doesn't even have the will to be able to be the ones to have like destroyed Quadrant 37.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Even though he still wanted the Centauri to feel that pain,
Mm.
because that's what anger does. And even though Commander Sinclair goes to him and says, hey, look, we're at a crossroads here, and this isn't looking very good. And he says, I don't like where we're going. And he says, there's still time to choose another path, and you could be a part of that process. And even though this chance for him to save face arises, he couldn't do it. And unfortunately, when you push someone a little too far into a corner, they have the potential to fight back and rise. And that's exactly what Londo did. He didn't understand the circumstances, but he took the opportunity. Because I know that deep down, he's so tired of being pushed back. And on top of that, he had this demand, right? He had this responsibility. In that episode, The Quality of Mercy, he says, prevent other races from gaining the upper hand, continue to forge good relations with possible allies. But like the pressure, prevent other races from gaining the upper hand. I feel Londo was pushed a little too far. Not that like Londo knew exactly what was going to happen, but I think he was desperate enough to not even ask questions. Like, well, Morden, what do you mean you'll take care of it? How are you going to take care of it? What exactly is the price am I going to pay for this? Can you make those things clear? Didn't ask. Didn't ask because that's also the sign of desperation in his own way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you ask questions when someone else comes over and says, hey, look, I'll help you solve all your problems. I'll help your people get back their glory. I'll help you, strengthen those two legs that you're standing on so you're no longer feeling like this victim to like the Narn anymore, or even to Jakar's wrath and anger. When you're desperate, you don't ask questions. You take the opportunity that's given to you. Because that's exactly what desperation is, right? You have very little time to think about the solution or how that solution is going to come. And even in anime, don't you make that pact with like the devil?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, when you're like, at that crossroads where it's going to be a matter of life or death. I think when you get pushed a little too far, something else happens, and I don't know if that's what you want either. And I think Jakar knows he made a huge mistake.
Londo or
Jakar.
Jakar?
Because he pushed Londo too far.
He doesn't blame
He
Londo,
doesn't.
though.
He doesn't blame Londo, but I think he knows he pushed a little too far too. Because he even reflected on that like telecom when like to Natath, right?
Mm-hmm.
What exactly did he say? Hold on. He says, tell the commander he was right. We're at a crossroads, and there's no going back. He says, tell the commander he was right. Tell the commander he is right. That his anger really has pushed things too. That it is a contributing factor, because why else would he have said that? Because that's
Right.
exactly what the commander came to talk to him about.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said to him, you can start by giving the Centauri some room to maneuver. And he didn't. He wasn't going to
Right.
budge. The character I absolutely feel for, and I felt so pained and heartbroken for, was Londo. In the moment when it was discovered that the complete, like, Quadrant 37 was taken out, and that was basically done by, like, one word, one wish
Mm-hmm.
uttered by Londo to Morden. That's all it took. I guess in that moment, what I imagined was those times I've said those one words. That completely changed my path in different directions, in different branches. I guess I think about, if it wasn't for, like, my anger and my own desperation in my own ways, would I have had, I know I would have had different outcomes in different places that I've gone to. I think I foresaw, or I foresee, the direction Londo is going to be headed. And he has blood on his hands.
Oh no.
Like, not literally, right?
I I know I'm teasing you.
Not,
It is going where you think it is,
not,
but yeah.
this is the fact that he has blood on his hands, the fact that he made this one crucial decision that he's going to probably regret for the rest of his life, because it is going to go on to destroy everything.
Well, two really, right? Because you need to rewatch Signs Importance, right? Because Jakar has that great line about what he wants to happen to the Centauri's children's bones or something. He's got this whole great speech about like using the bones of their children as toys or something. I can't remember what it is, but it's brutal, right? But he still will not accept Morden's help. And Delenn, as soon as Morden comes in, she's like, "Nope, turn around and get the fuck out." Like she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So as soon as Londo is like, "Well, sure, you can help me," right then he opens that door
Right. Right.
and then does it a second
Right.
time in Quality of Mercy. So he's already like, and that's how Morden's like, "Oh, he's going to be good for our needs." Right? He knew it as soon as, because everyone else, he's like, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?" In Science Importance. And they're like, "I don't need anything. I don't want anything from you." And Jakar is like, "I don't need anything from you because I'll get it myself. I'm going to get all the bones of all the Centauri children and turn them into toys," or whatever it was. Like he tells Morden exactly what he wants, but then he says, "And I'll do that myself," basically. He doesn't ask for Morden's help. He expresses his anger and his hatred towards the Centauri to Morden's face. But at the same time, he doesn't ask for Morden's help. And that is very telling from, a PTB perspective versus an upper management perspective. You know, upper management knows not to fuck with people like Jakar, because while Jakar has the rage that they like to see, the kind of deep-seated hatred enough to say, "I want all of the bones of all of the Centauri children," right? That is pretty deep. That's pretty demented and psychotic. But at the same time, it's uncontrollable. and he's not controllable. Someone like Londo, though, who has probably just enough anger. Jakar's anger is huge, and Londo knows exactly how much they are hated by the Narn. He states that very clearly. He doesn't hate them back in the same way. He's not capable of that kind of rage, but what he does have in equal amounts is desperation.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that you want to manipulate. Those are the people that are easy to manipulate. You can't manipulate somebody like Shakar. He's too angry and he's got too much of his own ego and determination.
Mm-hmm.
He would never accept somebody's help to enact revenge that he feels he'll take with his own hands. But Londo is too afraid to give in to that anger. He's got fear and he's got desperation. And those people are very, very likely to make deals with the
Mm-hmm.
devil. And they're easy to manipulate. And as soon as he said, well, yes, you can help me get back this one thing, you knew that that was it for him. And what happened in Quality of Mercy is just the tip of the iceberg, right? And but that's the thing. That episode is very telling about who the shadows are interested in. They're interested in working from the shadows, people who they can manipulate who are weak. And nobody wanted Morden's help except Londo.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, anger is very powerful. You know, it keeps you from being manipulated in some ways.
Yeah.
But Londo isn't that angry. Londo is very meek. You know, he recognizes that the Centauri are never going to be what they were, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't wish that they could have some power back. It doesn't mean that he doesn't wish for the glory he used to have, but I don't think that he's willing to go through ridiculous lengths and violent lengths to get it. He's not that kind of
No,
desperate.
he said to Morden, I thought you might find a way to like protect the ships or cripple their forces, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. What happened was unimaginable to him. But
Exactly.
yes, this is a second, interaction he's had with Morden, but this is definitely that one decision. I mean, I don't know how that first decision like plays in, but this second decision is definitely the game changer.
The first decision just shows that he is willing to accept outside help and not get his hands dirty.
Yeah, as you were talking about that whole thing, I came across this Chinese song, and the lyrics say, you can't lean on a mountain because it'll fall, and you can't rely on people because they'll leave. And so therefore you have to like do things yourself and learn how to do things yourself.
Mm.
And I think context is what's really important. Sure, you could ask for help and you can ask for support. Initially, like when I saw the lyrics to that song, I thought like, well, I don't really completely agree with that. But then also it's translated to English, so I don't know if it's exactly what that's meant, because it sounded more like a song that was like really about learning how to stand on your own 2 feet
Mm.
and be able to take care of things because of your own problem solving, your own strategies, and your own way of coming to solutions, just like the way mostly like Sinclair usually does, while relying on help in the right ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then that,
Even bending the rules for good
huh?
reasons, though. Even bending the
Yeah,
rules for
even
good
bending
reason.
rules for good reasons. And then that makes me think about that woman, the doctor. I forgot her name.
Yeah, Dr. Rosen.
At the end of her verdict, she says, hold on, I'm scanning here. Oh, I could. Um, she said, I did the necessary thing. That's not the same thing as the right thing. I don't know how I was going to tie that in.
I see the
Yeah,
connection,
there
though,
is.
that you're trying to make.
I, kind
Mm-hmm.
of slipped my mind the direction I was going to go. But, you tell me the connection. I think I'm okay. I mean, I'm thinking about this in terms of like, I see the necessary thing. That's not the same thing as the right thing.
Like, you were saying, like, people are willing to do difficult things, right? Like, Sinclair is even willing to break the rules, even if it's for a right reason.
Right. Right. I, sometimes what you need to do isn't the right thing to do, but it's a necessary thing to do. And we also have to like deal with the consequences of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you relating that to Londo making decisions or making choices that he feels are necessary but not right? Or Jakar, even?
The right thing. That's not the same.
Neither Jakar or Londo are doing things that are right, but they're doing things that they feel are necessary.
Right. I had like a moment of like just going blank there. Thank you. I had like a lot of other these like intrusive thoughts come in that I
I
couldn't
can see it
filter out.
happening on your
Thanks.
face, which I love. That's one of the reasons why I like those moments for you, because I see you in flow and then I see you lose the flow and then I see the flow come back.
Yeah, there was a lot of thoughts. I mean, the necessary things that come from people are based on what, it comes from what they believe is what they feel their duty is or how they see things to be taken care of. I mean, I don't, Lando did feel like he needed to do something about Quadrant 37.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do it the right way.
Well, he tried. He tried the diplomatic way. He tried, he brought the council and and Jakar was just like, fuck that treaty. Like, he tried doing it through the right channels. He tried getting the council to understand why what the Narn were doing was unfair because they had signed a treaty. And Jakar's like, yeah, but we signed that treaty under duress, so fuck it now. And Londo couldn't really do anything, but he did try to do it the right way. Just like in the previous episode where he sat down with Delenn and they made, some agreements. Like, he tries to do things, the politically correct way.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Because as much as he tries, as much as he's put effort into things, he sees no results. And he goes back to
Mm-hmm.
square one, which is why then when you like I say, when you push someone who's desperate a little, well, when you push someone a little too far, they become more and more desperate, and then what happens?
Mm-hmm. He tried the right way, didn't work, so he accepts Morden's help.
Isn't that how sometimes evil is bred?
Exactly. Because the world is not just and the world is not
And if you
fair.
watch every anime out there, every villain has a backstory. And
Hmm.
every villain is someone you can actually empathize with because they were
The
pushed.
Japanese understand
Huh?
that well. The Japanese
Yes, because
understand
they
that
were
well.
pushed all too far and the right ways did not work. And so they did the necessary things. And those necessary things,
Hmm.
unfortunately, sometimes come with a high price. I really do
Hmm.
not know what the price Londo is going to pay. But for right now, all I know is that that price is agony and guilt and probably shame.
Remember that first word you chose.
Agony.
Yep.
Yeah. That makes me think of a very crucial period in my life when it was, between actually probably, yeah, crucial period in my life when my mom told me that I basically had one choice and that I needed to follow this choice, this one decision. I did until it didn't serve me anymore. But the consequences of that were definitely mine to bear. But I spent way too long blaming her, even though I was like in my adult years. Young, but still in my adult years. I spent way too much time blaming her for making me make that decision and guilting her and telling her that it was her fault. Because then she wanted certain other outcomes to happen, which was not feasible with the decision she told me that I needed to make. But I held on to blaming her for a very long time. And the other outcome, the other result of that is that when you spend too much time blaming someone else for a decision you ultimately made and you could have done something about a long time ago, but you were too hung up on blaming someone else, it cripples you. You end up just staying in one place, shielded by the fact that, like, you can sort of use someone else as a scapegoat for something that's supposed to be your own life.
I don't know what that's like at all. But it's hard to blame yourself, especially when you feel that you didn't have any control over the decision that you made.
No, not the decision, but, could I have looked for a solution sooner than later? Could I have, like, had I been able to let go of that anger, would I have been able to find something else that was more suited for me a lot sooner? Like when you realize that you made this decision and then you could have changed you could have changed your outcome or you could have changed how you were going to move forward, but instead you spent all that time blaming someone else and then you didn't do it because it was easier to blame someone than to take action. It's easier to say my life turned out this way because of you and stay in that than to actually do something about your life to make it different. Now, the challenge in that, right, is then you'd have to face every aspect of that and work that through and figure out what it is that you really wanted for yourself because you were so brainwashed because you were so like, this is the only thing you knew for the longest time. And then after you know that for the longest time, how easy would it be for anyone else to be like, well, listen, I'm going to go and experiment and I'm going to go and try something else, because you end up becoming a little bit afraid of making your own decisions. However, hiding behind blame, I mean, it becomes easy. It's the easy way. But again, like, it keeps you in one place. And again, to be able to like not do that anymore would take so much to figure out how to resolve. Because that like hurt and anger is there, because the outcome, you ended up to at this point, and you're like, well, how do I then like choose another path? It becomes very difficult. I'm not saying any of that is easy. But in the end, Londo is going to be the one who's going to hold on to all this. No one else. No one else.
Very, very true.
Huh?
That is very true.
Yeah, no one else, because it is his decision. It is what he decided to do. Morden, who was there, who said, hey, look, I'll help you. Even if, let's say he was his best friend. Let's say Morden was his best friend, right? He still would not be the one to live with those consequences. Not firsthand. It would be Londo.
Do you think Morden is human?
I don't. Morden works for the Shadow, right?
Mm-hmm. He's their representative, yep.
I wonder if he is human. And he's like a human representative.
He seems to enjoy his job.
Yeah. And he seems to be very much highly regarded. And the Shadow even like feels reassured by his confidence.
Mm-hmm. Just a question I thought I'd throw out.
I wonder if he's human, but I think he is human. I wonder if he's like, I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on that, to be honest with you. A part of me thinks he's human because maybe that's the way he's able to like connect with humans in order to gain their trust. I don't think that he was able to gain Jakar's trust because Jakar has too much pride, and he wants definitely to be able to be the one to say that he did it on his own. Delenn was like repulsed by him. So I don't know.
Well, remember that there are always going to be humans who will side with whoever has
Mm-hmm.
the most power, right? To save their own asses.
Mm-hmm.
People will side with their oppressors, even, right? So it's entirely possible that Morden is one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say? I don't know that it gets explained. It's just it was a debate at the time.
I have to tell you though, the Shadows, they are not. I don't know who's going to be able to handle them. And Kosh, the Vorlons are supposed to be the oldest race. Aren't they supposed to be like the strongest among all of them?
No, they're just the oldest.
Okay.
We haven't seen anything with the Vorlons except Kosh. I think we saw one of their ships, but that's about it. We don't know anything about them.
I'm very curious about like what that whole interaction between him and Delenn is, where she's like, well, I need to see it from my own eyes. I need to like, basically she needs to garner more trust, and then he gets disrobed and
He gets disrobed. Is that what
And she was
happened?
like, thank you, I needed that.
When she goes to Kosh because she's about to do something that is dangerous and, you know, she needs to confirm something with him. She goes to him to ask him to confirm something before she makes this decision. And when he disrobes, the look on her face is not necessarily surprise.
It was yeah, it was just more like reassurance.
Exactly. She needed to confirm something she already knew, right? Just to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed her to go and make her decision. And what does she say to him when she leaves?
Now I will keep the promise.
And you will not see me again
Oh,
as I am
yes.
now, right?
Yes.
So she she already has a very clear idea of her path and her destiny. She believes in it fully. And so much so that she already knew something about Kosh. She just wanted to make sure that she was right before she made her decision. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about what she did, whatever that is?
Whatever it is, she's going to be in the future with Sinclair saving people. As in that last episode, like one of the last episodes we watched.
Babylon Squared. We see her, well, we hear her. We don't actually see her, but we hear her
We assume
with
it's
him
her.
when
I
he's
mean,
all
there could be no
old.
one else.
Right. But yeah, so we know she's a part of Sinclair's future in the
Mm-hmm.
far future.
Right.
And even Lanier doesn't know what she's doing.
Lanier. Talk about like Lanier. When she starts the process of cocooning herself,
Mm-hmm.
and he just stands there and he has like this tear down
Mm.
his face. That moment and the moment where he's just standing there holding this candle up. I just thought about like how that's also a very like lonely moment too. Because no one else would be able to like experience that emotion at all. He is the only one who'd had that kind of relationship with her. He is the only one who, well, close relationship with her. He is the only one that knew her well enough to know that, that she wouldn't even question what he did because she would respect him.
Mm.
And then to experience that uncertainty, loss, all by himself,
Mm.
that was also like painful to watch as well. Like I say, people's experiences are their own. They go through it on their own. No matter how much someone is there to support you, you're the one who deeply is affected by the things that are closest to you, by your own choices. I don't know what Delenn is going to turn into, but this whole chrysalis thing came up once before with the telepath, the young telepath.
Mm-hmm. In Legacies. Yeah, right at the end. Yep.
Hmm.
So she had been thinking about this,
For a
you know,
while.
yeah, for some time.
You know, imagine being able to believe in something that strongly and being able to like just shape your whole life according to this thing that like you were passionately believing in. And you take every step towards that direction and you don't really feel lost. You just need some reassurances along the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just wondering like what that's like to have that when you didn't feel lost along the way. I mean, I don't think being lost is a bad thing because then it gives you opportunities, but there are some people who just really never really can find their footing and they never had anything to like really feel passionate about because they never found it for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Like Grail.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's exactly the same
Yeah.
thing that you were saying.
Yeah, to feel so sure in something in like the things that you're doing. I mean, I think if you have that in your life, it's like half the battle.
Anyone who's watching this this project of ours probably has the same question, and they want to know what you think, because we know that Sinclair never got a chance to talk to her because she said she was going to explain what happened, and then he never gets a chance to hear it from her. So as an audience, we don't get to hear it either. So what do you think, based on everything that you know so far, what do you think this prophecy is? With all the evidence, I think you have enough evidence to be able to come up with something based on everything from Soul Hunter on down. What do you think this prophecy is based on what you know about the Minbari, what you know about the religious caste, what what their religion is, what they believe? What do you think this prophecy is?
I'm not sure. Obviously, this is like a speculation.
Mhm.
I believe that the shadow is behind making all these moves to destroy everyone.
Okay.
I don't know for what, or is it really to destroy everyone, or is it to cause chaos among everyone,
Okay.
which is ultimately, you know, going to destroy everyone. So I know that the shadows are definitely involved and they have like they're making moves for some reason. The
All
whole
right.
thing with like the president getting killed and like that they were going to assassinate him with these transporters and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Luis Santiago was all about like realigning humans and aliens so then they have much more of a unity, right? What
Who?
the president, Luis Santiago, the one that got killed.
Okay.
But then the vice president, who's then sworn as a president, the very first thing he says was how they were going to focus on the interest of Earth people,
Uh-huh.
the
Right.
humans.
Yes.
So there's even more of this like, what's going on? We're going to assume that Morden is human. So I wonder how much of that lines up with like what the goal of the shadow is or how much he's influencing the shadow's purposes. As for Commander Sinclair, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm thinking of like Ducat, right?
Okay.
And you know, I'm thinking like he's this great warrior, and I wonder if Sinclair is the second coming of Ducat for the Minbari. and that he is going to be the one who is going to actually be able to have within him the capacity to be able to handle what's coming with the shadow.
Okay. I like this. This is actually really enlightened of you because you're taking into consideration that the Minbari believe that their souls are recycled, right?
Right.
And that what they saw when they took Sinclair was that he had a soul in him. That triangle that they
Right.
held up glowed or whatever, so that they realized that they can't kill any more humans or him because somehow humans can hold Minbari souls or something to that effect, and that they can come back as Minbari.
I didn't go that far as to thinking that. I'm thinking just in terms of like souls. I would think that like souls can be reincarnated in pretty much anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a Minbari human or an ant. So
Okay.
so with the plot thickening in this direction
Yeah.
is what is the reason why I gave the plot first.
Okay.
And then how I then think that like, because like Ducat was this great warrior,
He was their leader.
and right, he was their leader, and because there was such reverence for him in Soul Hunters, and like why she needed to like make sure that his soul was doesn't go anywhere else because it needed to take its natural course. And they made such a huge deal out of that episode. And Ducat,
Oh, the soul hunter, when he said they tried to get Ducat's soul, and
right,
that the Minbari made a what did he say, a wall of bodies to keep them from him.
there was this huge deal about not, especially not taking Ducat's soul.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they do that? And so then, I'm just kind of connecting it to like Sinclair. Why did they save him? And I wonder if like the whole purpose was all in all this was that they found that Commander Sinclair may actually be then someone who is very much going to be like Ducat.
Okay. What does that have to do with then what Delenn is doing now? What do you think Delenn is doing?
I think Delenn needs. I don't think Delenn could stay in the same capacity as she is in order to be able to fulfill this prophecy to help Sinclair.
Okay.
That she needs to be something different. And I don't know what that something different is. I don't know if that something different is that like she's going to actually like reborn into this warrior caste. I don't know. I finally finished season 1 after like 10 years.
I can't imagine it ever taking somebody 10 years to finish 22 episodes.
Yeah, 10 years.
But
I mean,
you've had a lot going on. TV,
that's what you're going to
you've
say.
managed to watch at least 40 animes in that time.
I sure did. My anime list is like absolutely growing in titles here.
But you couldn't finish one 22 episode.
You know, it is when we stopped doing the project, there was a part of me that like I thought about like cuz you said to me, you could just keep watching B5 because you will there's so much to learn from it, like you could just we don't have to film anymore. And I never could get myself back to like watching something that we started as a project and not see it to its end somehow.
Hmm.
So I never watched it, and yeah, it took a very long time, but I'm glad like we were able to watch it through this medium because I don't think that I would have thought about all these crucial things in the way I do now. It's an interesting thing for as I have all these experiences and things in my life, but if you never really formulate words to them and think about it and speak them out loud, I don't know if I would have thought about it in the same capacity that I would have had if I just simply thought it and never uttered words.
Mm.
So it really gave me this medium in which I could reflect on it much more actively rather than just passively, and allow it to take shape, just much like the B5 station, right? A dream given form. I guess in some ways, it's my life given form in the present. And I have words to go with the feelings that I've had. I have a story to tell with just the experiences that I only held in memory. So, in that, it had been a pretty unique experience. I can't say my last few recordings were all that great. I felt very disconnected, to be honest. I haven't done this in a while, so I think I felt a little bit far removed. And you know, the interesting thing that always keeps creeping back up is like how much of like this career as being a clinical psychologist continues to like restrict me, because we're like taught you're not supposed to self-disclose. Other people really shouldn't know about you. You know, you shouldn't talk about your shortcomings, your limitations, your flaws. And that how therapy is really just tailored in this way. As much as I disagree with it, I still kind of like am unsure where that line is between practice and being human.
You had started to say something that I found really fascinating, and I wanted to get back to that when you said that all of these characters are you in some way, and
Yeah.
you gave a couple of examples. I know how Jakar and Londo and Sinclair are like you. What about like Ivanova and Talia and Lanier and Veer? How do you see yourself in them?
In Lanier, he talked about how he was, all he knew was just this one world. He was born, he was raised in a temple, he learned about religion and probability, and that was it. It was the same. I was born, I only knew about what it was like to grow up firsthand in an immigrant status, in a world that my parents didn't even know how to navigate, and I was their main translator with barely with, with barely any Korean that I knew back then, only because they spoke it, but in very unintelligible ways as well when I think back on it. But that I had nothing really else. And we had this conversation when I said to you that, you know, I and a part of me felt envious that at least you had like some friends who gave you this exposure to some different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that exposure until actually we met. But I had little bits and pieces of exposure here and there. But I thought about like, what if I had different experiences that would have taught me different things a lot sooner? What if I what if my father wasn't an alcoholic and he was able to teach me Korean properly? What if I had those Chinese friends that I did as my neighbors, and instead of us like bickering and fighting all the time because I didn't know how to like maintain friendships, that we were able to talk more about our cultures? What if I actually, you know, had a role model who enjoyed reading? Would I have been able to spend more time like at the local library indulging in books rather than like going around and picking fights with like the neighborhood kids, like the town boy that I was? So in that way, Lanier reminded me of me. Ivanova, Ivanova is someone who is always going to be held who's always going to hold on to her tragedy, the loss of her mother, and how that like really did this disservice. And in that way, I hold on to like my own tragedies, my own trauma. And it, for the longest time, it shaped the decisions I've made in the course of like actions I've taken. But it shaped a lot of my thinking. And I think for the longest time, it really hindered me. Although I think for her, she was able to like sort of see beyond that and see that there are, different solutions. But I think simply just the fact that she held on to this very, very tightly, the same way I hold on to like my childhood and like how my parents really didn't know much, and how part of me kind of resented that, especially in my younger years.
I also see you as, you know, in a way that you don't always see yourself, but like Ivanova, you're funny as hell. You're very funny. And so is Ivanova. She's very funny. She has a very sort of stoic attitude about things because she's Russian or whatever that,
Right,
but
right.
she's very, very funny.
But I think that's exactly what it is, right? That through her trauma, she was able to find resilience.
Mm.
And through my own, I was able to begin to see life a little differently. Once I was able to begin to, like, once I started resolving so much of this, or at least I, took the steps towards it, that's when the comedy did come out.
Mm-hmm.
And like they say, right, in the world of comedy, that basically comedy is tragedy plus time, right?
Mm.
So I think in that I was able to find humor in some of the absurdities of life, as well as some of the truths of life. That sometimes it's, as strict as it is, or as like sad or tragic as it is, that there's some humor behind it all.
What about Talia?
The part of me that like wants to follow rules because, you're afraid. The part of me that like only knew one thing for so long and you just had to like be tunnel visioned with that because you knew nothing else. I guess I mostly see her in that. I can't really think of any other example right now.
She's very rigid, which you are.
Mhm.
She is also very much conflicted.
Mhm.
I think that she knows that Ivanova is very much correct about the Psykhe. Between Ivanova and what happened to her friend Ironheart, I think she knows that the Psykhe is not perfect. I think that she's aware of that. I think that somewhere deep down, which is why she's still friendly towards Ivanova, why they have lunch or they have drinks or whatever. Like she can understand her and she wants to understand her because she does know somewhere that the Psykhe is not all that. And she's open to that. And I think
She
that
is. And I think
you have
that's,
the same tendencies.
yeah. So for as much as I had been very rigid and very strict, like I mean throughout, I mean I was much more like you can't do this, you can't do that. I got to only do this. I mean, I had perfect attendance all throughout like high school because missing school was not an option. Being absent was not an option. I had perfect attendance like, almost all throughout my elementary and junior high school. And the only reason why I had a, I skipped school and I had some sick days was in fifth grade because I had chicken pox. Because skipping school was like against the rules. My uniform was always worn correctly. And I'm staring out at this window and not into the camera because today's the day of this snowstorm that we're having here. And the snow is
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful outside. And it's actually helping me focus. um Very much. But then in that same breath, right, I've learned to become a little bit more open minded. And one of the things I remember you always had as your closing in an email, especially when we were emailing each other back in those days, much more than before text was as popular,
Mm-hmm.
when we were sending each other emails, one of the things that you had written as part of your email in a quote as your closing to every email was the willingness to listen and learn, something
Mm-hmm.
to that nature.
Yep.
So that actually stuck with me. I never told you that.
No, I did not know that you even read my signatures in my emails.
Yeah, that one particularly like stuck with me. The willingness to actually like be curious and listen and learn something new. So then you're not as rigid and you could challenge like all these old thoughts or the thoughts that you have that cannot fit because it just doesn't serve you. It doesn't keep you from, it keeps you from moving forward.
Ah, my willingness to listen, understand, and seek truth is what has allowed me to have an open mind about all kinds of things in the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I run towards, embrace, and agree with everything I understand, but I certainly don't run away from, reject, or disagree with everything I don't.
Yeah. I couldn't remember all that, but it doesn't matter. What I felt it was what was more important there.
That and the female psyche is like actual spam. It's a bunch of leftover garbage that someone should have thrown away that is then put together, forcefully squeezed into a small pressurized space, and that kind of shocks, confuses, and disgusts you when you actually manage to pry it open. Ah, I'm brilliant. What about Veer? Do you see yourself in Veer at all? We haven't had a chance to really get to know Veer too much.
No, we didn't. But like the moments that I love his relationship with Londo. The fact that like he's the conscience, right?
Yes, he is.
He's the conscience, but at the same time, he is absolutely funny. He, as serious as things are, his comedy also, the way he delivers his comedy also actually demonstrates how serious some things are. Like, when Londo goes to him and says, "I'm going to take care of Quadrant 37." And then in the beginning he's like he didn't hear it. He's like, "You what?" And he's just so his emotions are always so honest.
Yes, yes.
That. And I think that's what comes out for me. My emotions are almost always very honest. I can't really hide that. I'm very terrible at hiding my emotions and my thinking and my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, sometimes I may lose friendships over it, but I think what's more important is that people can see me for who I am, rather than me masking myself to be someone who I'm not.
And you like Natoth. I remember as soon as she showed up, you liked her better than the first
Oh yeah.
attaché. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, speaking of Natoth, right? And like the line that Jakar says to her. Well, first of all, Natoth is also funny in her own right. Sinclair goes in to go talk to Jakar. She's like, he's a little busy right now. Three women walk out, and she's like, okay, he's available. he's, he'll be ready to see you, or whatever it was that she said. But speaking of like Natoth, like just hearing her name, the line where Jakar was like, it wasn't the humans. The Centauri don't have the will. The Vorlons don't care. Minbari wouldn't do it. And the line he says, "There's someone else out there, Natoth." That one line and the way Jakar delivers it was haunting.
Mm.
And like even adding her name at the end gave it a little bit more of this ominous feel. Because I think if he would have just said there's someone else out there, I don't know it would have if it would have been if the feel would have been as like as poignant as if he said there's someone else out there, Natoth.
Mm.
Because he's specifically talking to her, acknowledging her existence, acknowledging the gravity of them sharing that space together
Mm.
in that
Yes.
moment by saying her name. So that was a very haunting line for me when I heard it
Mm.
and the way he delivered it.
I know you liked Natoth, but how do you feel she's like you or you are like her? Like, what part of you would you say like is like Natoth?
I guess the way I carry myself.
Interesting. Elaborate.
Natoth carries herself in a way where she has this quiet confidence, right?
Is it quiet?
It's sometimes it's quiet. I think I see her as like sometimes being quiet. Like she doesn't as loud as she is in certain spaces, she doesn't go around like really. I think in some ways she knows how to hold space.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I can sort of see in myself, right? As loud as she is in some spaces, which I can be too. I could be very passionate and I could be very loud and I could be very playful or
Mm.
even I guess sarcastic in some ways, although I'm not a very sarcastic person. But she knows how to hold space she knows how to read a room and hold space.
Mm. Mm.
I think that's what I can see in myself and her.
Dr. Franklin. You said every character.
Every character. Dr.
So,
Franklin.
how do you hate that man? You hate him.
What he represents to me is a part of my old self that was very assuming, judgmental, and it's just like I don't know, just really didn't have too much regard for it. Like his bedside manner isn't really that great, you know?
He has a lot of ego, and you have a lot of ego. You had a lot of ego,
I did.
especially when you didn't know a damn thing.
I did. Back then when especially where it's like a lot of assumptions, a lot of judgments, a lot of like making my own conclusions. That's who he represents. The old
Mm.
me who was just like I'm right or wrong. But he does get like challenged and he is when he is proven wrong, he does accept it though.
Yes, that's true.
Mhm. Yep. When he discovers, first of all, he's going all over the place pretty much saying that Dr. Rosin's a quack before he even knows anything about how she's doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that part of me where I have jumped to conclusions and made assumptions about things too
And
quickly
people.
before giving anything a chance.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But eventually, very much in the same way, he's kind of coming around. That's kind of how I came around. Garibaldi?
Yeah, I kind of forget about him sometimes. But there are parts of him, maybe, that are, you know, that you can connect to, or if anything, be rejected by, or whatever.
I was in this episode, the thing that stood out for me most was when Sinclair and his girlfriend were announcing to Ivanova and Garibaldi that they were going to finally get married. And I wondered how Garibaldi felt in that moment. Like, he seems to be the guy where he had his own hopes and dreams, but he kind of missed his opportunities. He had that woman on Mars that he wanted to go and that he had this connection to, he loved, and he left her because he needed to go and fulfill his own role and identity. But, like, I just sort of see him as a guy who's just doing his best to survive his own internal demons, his own inner demons. So in that moment, I wondered how he felt about Sinclair announcing this news. And I don't know if I'm putting stock into this, but the look on him was like he genuinely was happy for him, for them. But the part of him where he's like sort of still in the same place, I guess.
I wanted you to speak on, I know we spoke on it like briefly the last time, but on the JMS episodes that you have liked, and I mentioned to you that I think that you tend to gravitate towards his writing.
His writing is
Um
beautiful.
the
Sometimes I
last
don't understand
six
it.
the last 6 episodes, Legacies, The Voice in Wilderness Part 1 and 2, Babylon Squared, Quality of Mercy, and Chrysalis were all written by him. And I think that you really like the way that he
I
directs as well
absolutely
as
love the
writes.
way he writes. I absolutely love the way he writes in a way that then portrays the character and gives the characters this deeper level of respect and understanding. That's what I love. They don't, his writing for the different characters, they don't make he doesn't make them to be like these singular like tunnel visioned people, or not that, but like he definitely gives them so much more depth. They're not just singular people with like a simple like single layer of these emotions or like thoughts, right? He makes them so complex where it really is portrayed and conveyed and demonstrated as them really exhibiting the human condition. It's not like watching like American TV show, which I don't really watch because I just can't stand it. I don't know, maybe I just don't watch enough of it for me to even be able to judge it. So correct me if I'm wrong. But like there's so much more depth in his writing, and it's sometimes it just comes off as poetry, and it really highlights the different layers of emotions that one of the characters may feel in a single moment, and it's just not just one. And that's exactly how it is for a lot of people. But then, unfortunately, then people don't even really know how to identify their own emotions, you know? But I like that he is able to portray that and like really get that across. That's what I love about his writing.
I think it's very, when he writes, he gives the characters a lot of gravitas. He likes monologues. He likes
Yes.
giving them moments to shine,
Mm-hmm.
like those, and he, as I've said, he likes stage actors and he likes actors that have presence. And so those lines that you love so much, even, the way that Andreas Katsulas delivers that line, that you like so much,
Mm-hmm.
it's written, but then he gives it that level of gravitas. And I think that's very clear in the episodes that JMS writes. This is his baby. This is his magnum opus. Babylon 5 is a masterpiece of writing. And it makes sense that when he's writing the characters that he loves and knows and is developing, he gives them so much extra shine, like, to them, as opposed to like a guest coming in and writing an episode. You know, he can these are his creations. He's
Right.
giving them that life.
Even like when Jakar delivers a line, an agreement signed under duress is no agreement at all. It could easily have been written by someone else as like, well, they were forced to like sign this agreement, so how can that be considered an agreement?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't it doesn't it doesn't ring as beautifully and as like more heavy, more deep. This resonates much more deeply, right? The word even, the word duress even has like a layer of like this heaviness to it instead of the word like let's say we were forced to write it, we
Mm-hmm.
were forced to agree. These lines are just absolutely beautiful.
And they're the great actors to be
Yes,
portraying
the
them.
way they deliver it, if it wasn't for them, and if it was delivered any other way, it also wouldn't work either.
Now, I remember at the beginning when we started all of this, you thought Jakar was very annoying and petty.
I did. At the very beginning, yeah. That's my own transference. That's me seeing myself as being having been annoying and petty, like being that loud and in all those ways, characteristics that I don't really like in myself that I used to have.
And now you see him,
I
you
see pain
understand differently. Okay.
because I certainly saw myself in him.
And Delenn,
To Len, Delenn, at first, she seemingly came off wise, but then she had all these like paradoxes and all these like hypocrisies and all these like, on one hand she said one thing and another I said, she said another, and I just had a slip of the tongue right there where I said I, right? I did the same things. There was this inconsistency. And I think I went through this whole period of time of like a lot of inconsistencies when I was sort of bordering between what wisdom was and what I still was holding on to as like the things I only knew.
mm,
And I think
and
that was my
now
whole stage of like learning. And even still now, I'm sure that those things show up.
she's still wise,
She still is.
but now you have a better understanding of all the hypocrisy? Or do you still not find
I
her
think it's a
trustworthy?
I think it's a cross between what she's continuing to learn and also what she believes.
Hmm.
And maybe I think what just sort of continues to guide her, because if she didn't have certain ways of thinking, would she be able to be on the path that she's on?
I think she's a very conflicted character. So she's serving a lot of different people and trying to serve herself at the same time. And that results in a lot of inconsistencies in how she behaves.
Mm-hmm. I think she needs to hold her own truth, right? To be able to fulfill whatever duty she needs to fulfill. And I think along the way, there are some things that she may believe that may not be as correct or as grounded in truth. Maybe she knows them, maybe she doesn't. But I guess it's like the same thing with me. If, as we're talking about how, like, the last time we talked about Ivanova and that whole episode with the young telepath, and like me thinking, like, why did I take that girl's comment about how Ivanova was only serving herself and she was only like forcing what she wants to know of herself? Why did I take that at face value? Because, like, as soon as I turned away and we turned this camera off, I thought to myself, wait a minute, Ivanova wasn't doing that. She was actually giving her options. But in that moment, I said something that was not very consistent with what I felt. Those moments.
Hmm.
I have those moments. I think it's just part of me being conflicted in my own ways and sometimes not seeing some things a little clearly because I was clouded. I question that still. Like, what made me think that? Even though I didn't think that. Even though and I think maybe I was a little hung up. Maybe I was a little hung up on like Ivanova's like being so focused on like her own experience that maybe I thought that she was being tunnel visioned when in fact I was, because I couldn't see outside of it.
Are you excited about um
Season
getting
two?
to second season? Yeah, getting to
Oh,
see
I was just thinking of
what
quitting
Delenn
right
is up
here.
to
What are you
and all
talking
that.
about?
You're gonna stop right here. You're done. You don't need to see,
No more. No more of these
anything.
recordings. You know who's listening to them anyway? And like,
Are you excited? No, are you excited? Are you looking forward
I
to
am. I mean,
because of the cliffhanger?
this the season finale was absolutely just amazing. It was a roller coaster of every single emotion, every single possibility, every single whatever that was going to that's going to come. So, this was probably the most excited I felt in an episode. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see what will come.
You've come a very long way since I met you and since we started this
That
project
is
8 times.
definitely a definite.
That is definitely a definite.
That is
Yes, it
definitely
is.
my words fail me because it's so definite. I think self-disclosure is important. It's it's just funny because I think when it comes down to anything, it's about what the intent is. And that's something else you and I had this conversation about a long time ago. I didn't understand it back then when we first had this conversation about intent. And you could still turn blue while trying to explain it to me, and I didn't understand it back then. But that everything had intent. It didn't matter. So, two same decisions can happen, but the intent is what drives it. And I think when it comes to self-disclosure, it's like what the intent is. If the intent is to like for the therapist to use a session as their own personal session,
Right?
that's very different as using self-disclosure from a place of wisdom.
Mm,
So,
very true. The more we share, I mean, social media has shown that certainly as evil as it is, ultimately it has allowed people to realize that they're not alone in their struggles and that
yeah.
in their feelings and stuff that other people are sharing, and that helps other people realize that they're not the only ones. And that includes therapists. There's a lot of therapists on social media that are expressing things and sharing things, and it helps people to see that therapists are people
Mm-hmm.
and that they're not necessarily wiser, but they have just different training that allows them to be helpful. But it's their life experience. It's a life experience that makes the best therapists. And I will die on that hill, including like my brother, and as far as he came to
Mm-hmm.
become someone who helps people who are in his shoes. He has that life experience that other people may not have to be able to understand his clients in a way that no other person can understand them. It's one thing to just read books and have education. It's another to have lived that life and to be able to help those people from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very valuable. And that's what I meant when I say that you're an intuitive psychologist. You know people because you have been shaped by similar things. You have risen out of those things, some of them, not always all of them. And that in and of itself makes you best equipped to help and listen to others and to hear them, really, really hear them. Not just sitting back with your notebook going, and how do you feel about that? And, referring to the DSM for everything, but because you feel it in your soul, because you've lived it. It's very valuable. It's more valuable now than ever. People want connection and they want someone who understands them. So I'm glad that you have grown into a person that is able to articulate herself and also is in touch with her past and present and uses that wisdom and that knowledge to help other people. It is truly where I always thought you would be. And I'm glad that you finally got there. and that you're continuing to do this project to help others in a different way.
Well, if it is of help, I'm glad. I'm glad.